Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Radical Ready Live. We're here again. Pat, how's it
Dan,
going?
good, going good. Good to see you
Pat,
again. It's been,
keep saying our
we,
names back. Yeah.
it's, this is, you know what this would be like, Dan? This would be, if we kept doing that, it would be like a ping pong game, which reminds me, your birthday was yesterday and what'd you turn, 28, I think. And, you got a ping pong table for your birthday present from your
I
partner.
did. Yes. I got a ping pong table. I'm pretty excited about that. So I plan to use that often. So that'll be nice. So how's it going?
Well, it's going okay. It's going okay. It's another gloomy day here in the Twin Cities, and
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
waiting for spring to go. But as I'm sure everyone or many people have heard, we're having another tough week here in Minneapolis. Another shooting of a
yeah,
young black man, and literally about 5 miles from our office here. And yeah, so it's been a heavy week, and
yeah,
that on top of the trial for George Floyd, which I actually just heard that the defense just rested their arguments, I
yeah,
think just a couple of hours ago. So we'll be, I guess, moving in towards the end of that trial. So yeah, it's been a heavy week here.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it has been. I mean, and on top of already heavy times,
Yeah,
around this country and the globe for that matter, but especially here in Minneapolis, we just keep getting hit. But we're a strong community, and hopefully, justice will prevail and healing will begin, and change can begin on top of that. So,
yeah,
well, yeah. So it's a fun episode today, and number one, we're going to be beaming in. We're going to be beaming in someone from Hungary today. So we're going global again, which is always fun, and from Budapest, which is actually one of my favorite cities in Europe. And I was been lucky over the past 4 or 5 years, was able to visit Budapest many times, probably um, I don't know, 10, 15 times. And I love the city, and very happy to be having Varnagy join us today, and CEO, co-founder of Benovative, and we're going to talk about design thinking on a platform in a virtual world. So um, I am super excited about this conversation, and it's so important, right? As organizations are reevaluating their purpose and their focus, and having to work in a very virtualized world, right? We can't
yeah,
get in rooms anymore. We can't use sticky notepads and really inspire each other in room settings. So we have to find new ways to do it. And Benovative have been doing this for years, in fact. So really excited about this conversation. And Pat, I know you've spent a lot of time running design thinking sessions. So what are your thoughts about this?
yeah. Well, I'm like you said, this is definitely a topic that's one of my favorite, and yeah, I've been a huge fan of the design thinking approach for many years now. I'm trying to think when I first got turned on to it, maybe 8 years ago, something like that. But and I can't wait to talk to Chris to talk about how design thinking is being adapted into a platform, how we're using technology to enable it. One of the beauties of design thinking when it was created was that it was a very kind of lo-fi way for teams to come together and work creatively to come up with sort of breakthrough ideas and to really think with empathy about users and to think about experiences so we would design better products and services, which is amazing. But the dilemma that in the post-pandemic world, or I guess we're hopefully about to enter the post-pandemic world, is that we can't come together. We can't take advantage of that energy of being in the same room together the way we used to be able to. We need to think about doing it virtually. We need to think about doing it through technology, and that's what's so exciting about Pris and her platform is that they're finding a way to do that, and which allows us to do this at scale and still bring value to organizations. So really excited to hear about her experiences and I'm sure both, breakthrough ideas, but also probably, I'm guessing maybe some things we're learning about how humans do and don't collaborate together when they're not in the same room. So really looking forward to that conversation.
Yeah, and I think another thing we'll touch upon today is the importance of giving everyone a voice in this
Right.
process. And I think, too often, I think without a platform like this, while design thinking is great, we tend to invite those who we believe are going to contribute effectively to a design thinking session, right? We don't
Right.
always make it as collaborative and as inclusive as we should. And I think opening up a platform like this, and this will be something we'll chat with Chris about, but it really gives newer employees who are just starting to build a connection to the organization, right? A voice. Maybe less tenured or senior workers or employees, an opportunity to contribute to the change and give them a voice. So I think there's a huge benefit there, and I think some of the best ideas are going to come from some of the freshest minds, right?
Yeah.
And I really love the fact that this is a way we can start to implement design thinking on a much larger scale, and of course for companies that are global. And Chris will talk about that as well. So I'm pumped for this conversation.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Dan. I mean, if there has been a bias built into design thinking, it has been, oh, let's go talk to Susan, let's go talk to Mary, let's go talk to Joe, because they're really creative. They'll have really good ideas, but it misses out on the kind of cultural implications or the energetic, I guess, indirect benefits we get at this, which is if you're allowing every voice at an organization to be part of kind of the democratic process of coming up with ideas, you get a great indirect benefit out of that, which is a feeling of being connected
Yeah,
that everyone has. And it's not just, oh, it's just, there's the people who come up with the ideas, and then there's the people that have to just deal with the ideas. This is really has a power to energize workforces. So it leads to innovation, and it also energizes teams and entire organizations if it's really deployed well.
yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree. And I want to just say hello to our committed community. So some of our regulars. Kyle Lundby, thanks for joining. I
Hey,
think
Kyle.
this might be your first. I know you've been watching them afterwards, but I know it's always been a conflict. So great to see you. And Elsa, always, I think, our number one regular. Great to see you. And Nicole, great to see you. Yeah, and Chris Reese is on. Awesome. Uh, Terry, I don't know if this is Terry Connell on. I'm gonna guess maybe names that I'm picking names that I recognize, but I don't see a last name. If it's not, I'm sorry. It's a different Terry, and welcome. Um, well, we'll see if Terry
Thanks,
jumps
Kyle.
in. Yes, thank you, Kyle.
Yeah.
Um, so Pat, you're getting ready to. I could hear your breath into a
Oh,
into a
yeah.
to a thought.
You've been around me for too long. I just saw Kyle's name, and it made me think of the fact that when we worked with Kyle back at Modern Survey, and even long before that, a lot of the work we did as we thought about design thinking was, to a certain degree, actually, no, let me reframe it. There's an action planning process that we used to do for years related to what you do with the results of an employee engagement survey, right? And so, I'm sure everyone who's been through that process before, you do a survey, you get some results, you get some key themes, and then if you do things well, you get some action teams that work together to come up with a set of action plans that then sort of carry out, some work to try and make a difference in the results or insights that we learned around employee engagement. And there was sort of a structured process. We've done that in the past. We kind of grew up with that, Dan. But then what's cool about design
Yeah,
thinking is it's a little bit it's a more energetic way to sort of, again, think about that process. And I know when we were even at Aon, I'm sure this is where the conversation will start. But there was this idea of, how do we kind of bring some of these design thinking ideas and lay them into these sort of approaches and techniques we've been thinking about for years, because it does, like you said earlier, it really does kind of democratize the process. So yeah,
yeah.
I saw Kyle's name, and it immediately made me think about that.
That's
Thanks,
a big
Kyle.
compliment, Kyle. You shook Pat's brain to think about something. I've been trying to do that for years. I can't seem to do it.
I just think, yeah, I think about all kinds of things, but they're just not,
Yeah,
when you
there you
do
go.
that, they're just not of value.
So I think, without further ado, I think we should beam in Pris from Budapest. So let me,
I do love the fact that you're using the term beam. It's like
well,
like there's a
if
satellite link up or something on the roof here.
you want to know why, if you recall, Pat, last week I was using the word on the line. So I was going analog, and I had
Yeah.
to overcorrect this week and talk like Star Trek terms. It was the only thing I could do.
Oh yeah.
Although I do kind of like, on the line still. I don't know why. I'm going to bring it back. So it looks like Pris is on the line here, and I'm going to invite her, Beamer up. So Pris, you should be getting a message to connect. We will see you in a moment. The beaming process is working.
That's right.
Scotty, Beamer
think Star Trek.
It works.
Hey, hello everyone. Happy belated birthday, Ben. I didn't know.
Thank you. Yes, and a year older.
Yeah.
Trying to get a little bit wiser, but
a little bit wiser. Nice to meet you, Pris. I don't think we've ever met before in person, right? Or if we have.
Yes. I was looking forward to the opportunity. So good to meet you now, Pat.
Likewise, I've heard a lot of amazing things about you and your company and your product. And I know I've chatted with maybe a few of your colleagues years ago when I was in Poland after the Aon acquisition of Modern Survey. I think a couple of your colleagues or something were there. Dan and I were just trying to remember, and that was maybe, gosh, I can't believe this, almost 4.5 years ago or something. But it's great to meet you and to get to talk about design thinking and your amazing platform.
Yes, I'm so excited because we have so many synergies, and people don't always think about design thinking when they are designing people experience, but I think they are so connected themes, and that's why I'm excited to have this topic on today.
Cool.
Yeah, well, thank you. I know we've been wanting to get you on our show since our first launch. So happy that you could join us today. So maybe just give us a little more of an update or a summary, I should say, about you and Binovative. Normally normally I do this, and I was so excited to beam you into this conversation. I want to say just a few things about you, so because because then you don't have to self-promote yourself, but I really want to self-promote Pris, and she is just an extraordinary a CEO and founder, and I've gotten the opportunity to get to know her over the past couple of years. And she was recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30, I think a year and a half back. She is a leading expert in the future of innovation and education, and I love this, and why collective creativity will contribute to breakthrough products and services, strengthen our self-esteem, and drive a happier and higher quality of life. And I think that's that is absolutely true, and I can't wait to hear Pris talk a little bit about this. And so with that, I know you founded Binovative a few years back. So tell us a little bit about you and about Binovative. And again, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. My background is actually in organizational psychology, and I researched it about 7 or 8 years, how to enhance both individual and group creativity and how to reflect on everyone's diverse viewpoints and get the best out of everyone when we connect to come up with new solutions together. And I find it really important to know that even when we think about in-person events or connecting through technology, there are so many psychological issues that we need to solve in order to empower everyone to speak up, in order to have everyone the same chance to have a voice at the table and to create impact. And that's why I thought that this is not just a technological, but also a psychological problem to solve And this is what we wanted to reflect in Beinovative, which is right now a software as a service platform based on design thinking principles to help people co-create and ideate in a remote way, to facilitate workshops just like co-creation workshops or brainstorming sessions or challenge-based learning programs and talent programs all around the world, to give the floor and give the voice for everyone to shape better products, services, processes, or the entire organization.
Yeah, thanks. That's the great intro. Yeah, I think it would be helpful for our listening audience, and I always like to define what maybe are in the industry become buzzwords. So whether we're there's a lot of them, and Pat knows this. This is something about me, and I think design thinking is so important in the value. And we're going to talk about differences between you're in a room together and virtual, and the opportunities we have with a virtual platform like Beinovative. But to even just take a bigger step back, what is the effective design thinking session, or what is it not, right? Because I think too often we say, well, we're going to do a design thinking session, but maybe we're just getting together and chatting about stuff. So to help us understand, what is design thinking in the sort of, in today, 2021, how would you define it to someone?
I would define design thinking that it's both a mindset, a methodology, and a set of tools that allows us to involve everyone in a problem-solving session to come up with the best answers, reflecting on everyone's diverse viewpoints, and really showcasing most efficiently what solutions we should move forward with, and then validate it with the target users. And it's pretty easy to say what design thinking is not when we are talking about buzzwords, because many people are talking about facilitating a design thinking workshop when they actually mean a brainstorming session.
Yes.
And design thinking is not the ideation piece. Design thinking is the whole process of helping people to think together. And it's also not just defining a problem and asking a good question. And it's also not user testing. It's like a mix of all. And sometimes we only refer to design thinking as a design sprint, but they are two different things. Design sprint is the definite 5-step process that you have to do each step at maybe consecutive days of defining the problem, ideating, then prototyping, testing, and implementing the solution. And according to design thinking, they are not like a straight line process. So you don't have to do one step after the other. It's more like a set of tools and methods, and based on the topic, based on the theme you have, you can combine it in multiple ways. And that's why I think design thinking is a bit more flexible and a bit more efficient than if we talk about only design sprints. But design sprint is like better to be conceived as a recipe, because it has specific steps and a specific concrete method how to do the things when you want to prototype something new.
That's really great. And here's a question that I have for you, Pris. So why did design thinking emerge as a philosophy? And as I understand it, it's really started to emerge out of the Stanford kind of design school, right? The D school in like the 2005 or 8. I can't remember exactly where. It might even be earlier than that. But from your perspective, kind of why did it emerge, and what was it trying to do differently than, or what was it trying to fix or do better than what was being done poorly before that?
Yes, exactly. So it emerged from Stanford D School, and also with a collaboration of IDEO. And they found that designers and product managers reflect on the value they create to the target users too late in the process. And in fact, they found that the whole process should always start with empathy, to understand the people, to understand their feelings, their thoughts, their actions, and to start the planning process already with this in mind. And what I find intriguing is that we should reflect it to people experience as well, because we need to realize, and that is also what design thinking is about, that eventually every single person who works on any processes of the company can reflect on the overall judgment of the company, the overall customer experience. Because let's say if somebody is a system architect responsible for just the servers, but there is like an outage with the servers, it will reflect on the customer's whole experience with the company. And this way we can have an impact working at any level of the company to customers. But that is again something I would like to bring in, that maybe we should be aware of that. Many times when we talk about design thinking, we are thinking about something outside. Go out of the building, test it outside, and sometimes it would be great to think about how can we bring design thinking inside the company, to start it internally with every single people who works inside the company. Because what if we knew not just for the managers, but also people working at the front line, what they think, how they feel, what motivates them, what challenges do they have day by day, and to keep this as the point when we are planning all the processes in the company, because this will reflect on how we create impact eventually.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And I love that, number one, and this is a great transition and segue into another question I have, but I just want to reiterate something you said, and I think it was really powerful, in that design thinking should start, and was originally created to start, with empathy and people experience in mind. And it's possible, and not that I've been in every design thinking session around the globe, but sometimes those that I've been involved with, we kind of forget that, that empathy side of things, and really trying to understand another point of view and another perspective. And that mindset is tough to get people there. So I think that's always a challenge, and always a reminder for anybody who's thinking about implementing design thinking, whether it's a cool platform like Innovative, or whether you're just doing it internally with a group, is that always start with that empathy, people experience, and what you just said, let's turn it around and let's focus on internal processes, which I think leads me to my first larger theme. And I want to talk about company purpose and how design thinking can influence building greater connectivity of employees and workers to the purpose of an organization. So to rally around the purpose of an organization. And for those on the call, we define, and I'm sure you all know this, but we define, purpose is that, why do we exist? That why. Why do we get up every day? What is this? It's not, are we, achieving revenue goals? Are we achieving targets? Are we achieving manufacturing goals? But why do we exist? Why do we serve our clients? That's the purpose of the organization. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pris, but what we've been seeing is that, especially younger generations, so Gen Y, Gen Z, there is an incredible connection to the purpose of an organization, almost over anything else, right? Of course, other things need to be in place, pay, benefits, all that. But really, there is this strong connection. People want to work for an organization that speaks to them, that inspires them, that it's on the right side of history with social issues, that is doing something, giving back, making the world a better place. So talk to me about how design thinking and purpose can live together, because I think a lot of people don't really think about, well, design thinking can influence how people connect to a purpose. But I know you've been doing some research and you have some cool white papers on this. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so we were chatting about how eventually with design thinking processes, we can influence products and services, which is at the forefront of what our company can do. And if we can show to each and every person inside the company what kind of impact they can have to the out world, then it talks to their like motivation about why they are there at the company at the first place. And if that why connects to the why of the company, then we will be able to motivate our biggest talents, because we can show them that they can create a positive impact in the world, and not just create positive impact, but they can shape it the way they want to see it. So this way we can not just lift out some individuals and tell them that how talented they are, but also create inspired connections and show that everyone has a voice at the table. So it's a mix of how to show everyone's best self, but also how to reflect on a diverse viewpoint of people at the same time. And I think this is where the magic happens. So this is why it's so important to connect purpose and design thinking, because the more impactful and bigger themes and bigger opportunities we give people in such a connected way, the more they will be capable of doing.
Yeah.
Well said.
How is yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's so cool. And I was just going to make a quick comment earlier, and then from what you said earlier, and then bring us up right to where you were. Like design thinking, when I've seen the power of it, the way you described in helping a team, and I've had a chance to work with, like, for example, nonprofits, or it could be a product team or whatever. It's just so amazing to see the way you describe that we can kind of build a better product and kind of breakthrough ideas very quickly through the process of understanding the empathy of that user, and then just being able to then apply those ideas towards new ideas and new products. But I really love this idea of how it connects to really the kind of the employee experience design, which is really what we're talking about now, or the people experience design. And the question I have for you as an IO psychologist, when you think about that construct that you just described, where I think you described it as, the best talent, or the talent in the organization can really feel connected to the purpose, and then that sort of builds up this sort of reinforcing, energetic outcome. Is that employee engagement, or is that something different? Is this even a slightly different construct that's maybe related to engagement, but it's something more? And and Dan and I spent a lot of time thinking about beyond employee engagement, because we feel like we're moving into sort of a new context, and engagement got us to where we are, but maybe there's more subtle constructs to think about. So I'm curious how you frame this idea of, like, what is this outcome? If you think of this energy the way you described it, or you think about people more motivated, what is that?
I think it's a great question, and I would call it part of people engagement, but maybe I would even call it empowerment, because this is more than engaging people, to be able to show and reflect on their best selves, and to give them voice, and give them the opportunity to create something. Obviously, it engages people, but it also empowers them to go beyond what they first imagined they could do.
And how there's a lot of talk about psychological safety in organizations, right? I mean, so the highest performing teams tend to have a sense of that psychological safety. How does that fit into this as well? Because I think, like you said, in order to have a place where voices are heard or people feel connected to the creative process, that's great. But then how does psychological safety fit into that too, right? Because that's another piece of this that would have to be there in order for people to feel confident in sharing their voices to get to that empowerment.
Yes, I think it's very important, and maybe it's also a big topic because that's why I feel like if we don't have a very talented facilitator to do it in person, or we want to use regular technology like a regular Zoom meeting or just maybe a chat type of platform, then we will run into many of the problems that will not allow us to create this safety when people are thinking together. Because what usually happens is we are different type of people. Some of us are extroverts, some are introverts, and when it comes to something new and unique, this will definitely kick into the place, like who is most brave enough to talk about novel ideas, something that was never done, something that they maybe got really few feedback for, and who are the extrinsic ones who like to be in the center of attention, and who is socially powerful and socially connected, so that when somebody from my group of maybe friends or the group of leadership talks about an idea, how much should I approve of it, or how much should I even think to myself truly and genuinely that, yes, I think it's a great idea. In fact, I was exactly thinking about the same thing. So this is the thing that that we need to solve, that if we are part of a large group, there shouldn't be a place for people to go behind the scenes just because they are introvert and they feel like ashamed about saying something that doesn't reflect on the existing strategies. And what we do about it is to kind of recreate a gamified environment in which nobody has to like put their names attached to the idea in the first place, unless unbiased and without knowing who shared the idea. Was it just a trainee or was it a senior manager? Everyone can vote on it on maybe two different criteria, like impact, feasibility, or importance and urgency, or something like that. And when it turns out that according to everyone in among all the participants thinks that, okay, these are the set of ideas that are worthy to move forward to conceptualization or prototyping, now we can give the floor to people that these of your ideas were approved. And if you would like to be proud of them, now you can uncover your identity. So it's a gamified environment because you have several shots to try. It's not just one single idea, and you either get approved or shamed for that. And it's also risk-free, because the worst that can happen is that nobody will know that you shared those specific ideas. And the other thing, just one more thing I wanted to add quickly, is that if there are many people in one group, then the so-called social loafing or free riding sometimes happens, and it can be overruled by small group sessions. So, for example, in Zoom, we can do breakout rooms or in-person workshops. Sometimes we sit people together to think in terms of threes or fours or in pairs, because this way we can engage people more, and this way we can give more attention to one another. And this we also reflected into Be Innovative in terms of breakout rooms with virtual whiteboards and virtual post-it notes, so that if only 4 people are looking for my contributions, I will be much more active. In fact, social responsibility will kick in because I will feel that they need my contribution in order for our team to perform well.
Yeah, I love that. And that this, again, and there's no notes here. This beautifully leads into the next transition of a topic. And so I want to introduce that topic, and then I want to tell a quick story that kind of backs up what you were just talking about all opinions and how different we are, introvert, extrovert. But then we're going to move, and I just want to set this up. A lot has changed in the past year, right? And in how we work, obviously, pandemic. And so my question will be in a moment, is how has that changed the way we collaborate together? And obviously we haven't been able to do it in person. So there's been a rush to tools like Zoom and Slack and you name it, right? Any type of tech where we can connect and have conversation. But I think, like you said so perfectly earlier on, a brainstorming session or ideation is not design thinking. So getting on a Zoom call and all just having a conversation, we need to solve for X, let's chat about it. Let's come up with really good ideas. That's a part of design thinking, but that is not design thinking. So my question for you is really what's changed, or question will be, what's changed and how do you think it's going to evolve as we head in through 2021 and 2022 and 2023. But I want to just kind of hammer in one thing. So and this, Pat and I talked about this when we kicked off too, an opportunity for every voice to be a part of design thinking. And so in the mid 90s, I'm aging myself here. I had a really cool opportunity. I was working in HR at United Health Group. So they're a big healthcare company. And this might be a huge shock to some of you. Well, some of you who know me well, it's probably not a shock at all, but I'm actually very much an introvert. So sort of while I love performing and speaking and being in front of people, I need my recharge time. I think Pat's more of an extrovert than me. And so I was very shy and I was involved with a lot of senior leadership meetings, and I was the young kid showing up, and I would never speak up. And I was with the CHRO and VP of talent and development, and we were always in meetings, and I was always a part of that team, but I was just way too shy, and I always thought my opinion wasn't going to matter, my ideas weren't going to matter. And I had this incredible boss. She ran a part of HR, and she sat me down and she said, "Dan, you never speak up." This is her feedback to me. And you have such great ideas, and you always tell me them one-on-one because you're more comfortable one-on-one. And she had come to see us. Pat and I played in a punk rock band back in the day, and she had come to see us play once at a club. We weren't her style of music, but she came to see us, and she really enjoyed it. And I remember her saying, when you were on stage, you were so confident, right? Because you were in your element, and the people in the audience, like you were in control of what you were doing, and you felt empowered. And that goes back to that word empowered. So she said, next time we're in a group meeting or a team meeting, pretend you're on stage performing. And that was her feedback to me. And it was, it's incredible. I don't think I've ever told that story. Maybe I have. But it actually, it was really, number one, it was good feedback, and it empowered me to speak up and to sort of empowered me to uncover my name, right? To your example, versus just have an idea, tell her beforehand, and someone could bring it up, but it's not really linked to me because if everyone shoots it down, I don't want to feel, So it was really inspirational. So I just want to bring that up because I just try to reiterate the importance of every voice mattering and every voice getting an opportunity. And I love what you're doing with your platform, allowing for that, where the coolest ideas can come from the quietest and most introverted of people, right? And that is the way I think incredible change can happen, and the way organizations can just drive innovation forward. So Anyway, I wanted to share that story. So with that,
Hey Dan,
yeah,
hey Dan. The only downside to that story is I remember then in band practices you would start to come in with PowerPoint presentations, remember, and you would start to
yes,
explain
that's right.
how we could better design songs. Yeah, and that's when the band broke up.
Yeah, that's right. I would come in
It
and
was
it would
such a
be
beautiful story.
we would call it, well, the older brothers always have to ruin a good story. That's true. So we would have to, yeah, I remember that. I would do like okay, how to create a rock song. That was the first slide. And then the second slide was rock, I think. And that's still just, play loud. All right,
But
we kid.
that's such a great example that in terms of creativity, not every one of our ideas need to be a breakthrough, and we still have to get up and try the next time and the next time again, because just one feedback doesn't mean that we don't have something great to inspire others and to influence new great things to happen.
Yeah, and one thing with that too, I mean, it's this misconception that we all need to be, genius innovators. You can take an idea and make it your own, and that can become your purpose and your focus and your passion and what you're inspired by. And I think that's really important. It doesn't have to be sort of the genius who comes up with the idea. Those who get behind it and believe in it, or it's just as important to get that idea done. And that's why I really, this co-creation and collaboration and ideation and all this together in a design thinking session is so powerful for organizations, because it allows for that. It allows for people to connect to an idea. And I believe in that idea because I believe that idea will influence the purpose of this organization. So sorry. So with that, let's go to pandemic, post-pandemic. Well, let's getting closer to a post-pandemic world. We're not there yet, but we are trending there, and things are starting to slowly lift. So how has this affected collaboration, Pris? I mean, from your perspective, have we been less effective, more effective, different, indifferent, and specific to your business and how you work with clients? What's changed, and how do you see this progressing as we head into the future?
I think many things changed, but many things are still about to change because we had unprecedented opportunities to connect people from different geographical regions. For example, what happened to us is we primarily had clients from either the States or Europe. And when the pandemic happened, suddenly we had clients from really evenly from all continents, from South Africa or Brazil, Colombia, the Asia Pacific region, just as likely as from other European or North American countries. And the same thing happened to organizations that finally they didn't just invited people to take part in workshops from the same offices, but from all other countries, which is great because more people now find connections and opportunities to collaborate. But I think what will come next is to realize that when we connect people, we need to think of how to make that collaboration the most efficient and the most creative, because it's like, sorry if I'm saying it too harshly, but I see that it's not enough just to see 200 cursors on a whiteboard. It's not going to make us any different. The difference is that if we are able to show what everyone is able to come up with together, and if everyone feels like, yes, I contributed to that outcome, So it's a democratic and unbiased outcome according to everyone that drives results. And I think this is what we started to experiment towards. And that is what the future will bring, to find new meaningful topics in which we can really involve a lot of people, and the ways on how to do that.
Yeah. I have Pat, did you have a follow-up?
I didn't.
See you nodding your head, you didn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's, that makes so much sense. And I guess one question I have, and I think this is a question that a lot of design thinking, organizations that use design thinking would have, and that is, how do we sustain the decisions? You talked about we agree and we prioritize. These are the focus areas for the business, and it's collaborative, and we got there by a democratic process, which is awesome, and that's great. But how do we now ensure that change sticks? So how do we check success along the way without getting too technical, with that? But how do we know that we're achieving outcome? Because that is, whether it's employee engagement, whether it's we're in a 3-day conference together, we come up with all these great ideas, and then guess what? We get back to work, and life gets a hold of us, and we just go back to our old ways. So how do we really create change? It's a big question, and sustain it, kind of post-design thinking decisions.
Yeah, and it all connects back to purpose and leadership, and strategy, because it needs to start with a good plan and the good theme that was important in the first place. So we always see that change will happen if leadership supports the initiative from the first place. So before starting a project, we find it critical to involve decision makers who could be supporters or sponsors of the outcome from day one. And if they are involved in the process from day one, or what's even better, they together come up with a need for a solution or for an outcome or for an improvement, then they will be able to carve out some time from like business as usual to say that, yes, this is a priority for the company. Yes, we can allocate these and these resources to make it happen. If it's not considered to be vital, and if we involve leadership too late in the process, then the everydays will just happen because we already planned out the next steps moving forward, and something new will not be able to fit in. And that is also why it's so important to regard design thinking not just as a mindset, but also as part of the culture of the company, to be able to do things a bit more in a flexible way. It just comes to my mind that at Catmull, Pixar's CEO was so famous for his saying that our most important job is to empower people to ask even uncomfortable questions. And how can we achieve that more people are ready to ask even uncomfortable questions? Because it means that we are able to reflect, and we are also able to listen. And this way, everyone gets an opportunity to share improvement suggestions. And compared to maybe a waterfall project, when everything is so strictly planned, one step after another, there is just simply no place for improvement. So that's why it's also important to regard design thinking as a cultural experience in which leadership knows that they are responsible for setting directions, but also reflecting on improvement opportunities. And once that happens, they have to allocate new resources and new timing for projects in order to make the change happen.
That's really interesting, Pris. As you were talking, I was initially thinking of a follow-up question around if you are responsible for employee experience design at an organization or people experience design, how should you be thinking about bringing design thinking in? That was sort of the question I was thinking initially, but as you were talking about it, I realized that you started to answer it a little bit. One is that culture is such a big part of this. Culture design work is definitely such a building block before you can, if you're really trying to fold in the idea of design thinking into how an organization works. But the other thing that's really interesting is it's really so much of a process thing too, right? I mean, in some ways, design thinking lives next to culture. If you think of process as an abstraction, like how we do things here, how we do work, it's almost a little bit of an operational kind of consideration as well, right? And those, it feels like those two things, if organizations to do it well, they probably need to bring those two things up alongside each other. So if you were, so what kind of advice would you give to people responsible for employee experience design right now who hear this and they're inspired? Where do they start? Who do they talk to in the organization to start to kind of frame up this conversation?
If I can share like two pictures as symbols that came to my mind. One I actually just heard. It's like snow melts around the edges because change happens at the bottom line. When you can involve people who are working at the bottom line and reflect on their insights and make sure that they have a voice at the table, this is when change will exactly happen. And the other one is from a running example. I also like running, and once I also ran half a marathon. That was the longest, but it doesn't really matter. The more what matters is practice. And I really like the example that a hackathon or a design sprint, like or a challenge, let's say, that you can define in terms of 1, 2, or 5 days, is something like a sprint. And one sprint will not get you anywhere. But if you just start with this sprint, it can help you get enough practice so that if you do it maybe next time, and you just prepare for that one session of one hackathon or one challenge that you involve your colleagues or the entire organization on answering one single question that matters to you. And you can bring it to identifying the right solution and then make it happen, then it will inspire enough people to be able to duplicate or multiply it and reflect it within their own environment. So I think that could be the best thing for someone who is inspired to create just one single process from beginning to end with an important question that actually matters, involve everyone, and have them to come up with a solution that everyone feels related to and actually implement it.
Thank you.
I love that. And Pris, we did a few months back. For the People Analytics Future of Work, we did an interview together, and we were talking about leadership and learning, and how we learn and how we grow and how we collaborate. And you said something that has stuck with me, and I admit I've used your quote a few times, and that is. The best questions should lead to more questions, right? And it was in the context of leaders being humble enough, being empathetic enough, right? Being collaborative enough to listen to their team versus just say, what's the question? I'm going to decide, let's go, right? It's actually okay to ask a question, and that might elicit more questions and more questions. So your quote was questions should lead to more questions, because we have this rush to get to the answer. And of course we have to make decisions, and we have to be firm with decisions and implement and push them forward. But I just loved when you said that. I think it was a magical statement. And so when it comes, I can't believe I have like a list of questions and we have 5 minutes left. So this was a really fast hour. So maybe so when we think about how we conduct ourselves in design thinking sessions, whether we're in person, whether we're using a platform. Talk about this. Questions lead to more questions, and talk about the importance of listening to each other and the importance of an open mind, and how do we train our people to get to that place where we're really listening and we're comfortable with uncomfortable questions leading to more uncomfortable questions.
Yeah, so if we take forward the example of sprints and maybe a marathon, then we need to realize that when it comes to, let's say, big word innovation, there is no one winning idea we need to go after. There is no such a thing. There is no such a thing as a genius who will do everything on their own. So it's much more important to realize the important questions, because this will bring in enough important ideas that we can build on, and we can create a process of continuous improvement and continuous innovation. So that's why sometimes we get paused at the time when we fall in love with one single idea and we can't let it go. And if we just keep holding on that precious one idea, it might keep others out of the table, and it might keep other opportunities out of happening. And in fact, when we know that questions are more important, and we rather reflect on what are the next more important questions, which one idea or one insight will lead us to, then we know how to empower people, to give them space to come in and suggest something that could be a good answer for that question. And knowing that, we will know that it will never end. So it's not going to be that, okay, we found out the ultimate answer to this ultimate question, no more questions. It's not going to happen. It's not the nature of business. So we rather need to prepare that leaders are the ones who are sitting behind the driver wheel. And the driver needs to be the one who sets the direction. And we can do that by asking meaningful questions. And other people can come in and help us, but the direction will be turned by the questions. So that's why I think it's really important to be conscious about the questions we ask, and we empower other people to ask. And that's how one question will lead to the other question.
That's a mic drop ending statement. I think that's awesome, and I loved and an analogy for life to some degree, right? I mean, you're just the statement of, if we hold on to something too tight and we don't let anything in, we're never going to grow. We're never going to learn, and it doesn't mean that what we're holding on to is exactly what we should keep or move forward with, but we can validate it, right? And we can by empowering others to say, yes, that's right. Or, you know what, maybe we should consider this, or maybe you should turn right here. It's faster to get to where you're driving, right? So backseat drivers are okay. I think that's as long as they don't get too annoying, but they're okay. Pat, I was jumping on you.
No, I would get really remarkable conversation, Preston. Thank you for sharing your it's what's so fascinating about this strategy and approach is it, like you said, Dan, it's almost like a life philosophy, and it just becomes so kind of profound as we think about this. And as you were talking in that last statement, I was making me think of many different things, but I was just thinking how this really ends up being the much more kind of, it gets back to the original ideas of the really Socratic approach toward understanding things, openness, and I do think, I was thinking how much, we talk a lot about cultural polarization in the world, and it's a lot of times because people who have different belief systems aren't asking the questions. They aren't remaining inquisitive and open to what's happening and asking a question and listening, because the beauty of that psychology is it opens you up to have to listen and then to look for another opening, and it really does open up a much more open environment for truly understanding. And you're right, we're on a journey with this. There is no destination, but the journey mindset is what we need to have, and I think that's an attribute we can take in business, but also in life. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's very inspiring.
Thank you so much. I so much agree. The journey matters.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Pris. We're at 1 o'clock. Just quickly, what's the best way to get a hold of you or connect with you? LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and I think that's the best way to connect with me. Just connect, shoot a message, and I will be happy to reply.
Fantastic. And check out the website. And obviously, if you're on this call, you likely came to it through LinkedIn, where Binovative is. There's a link to Binovative, so check it out. Thank you, Pris. This was awesome. It went way, way, way too fast. So we will have to do a part 2. Thank you, everyone, to the community. I'm sorry there's a few questions that came in here. I'm just going to quickly read them. Kyle, it's unfortunate that punk rock, I didn't see that. And then Terry, how the team works together in those experience project efforts. Yes, critical point. Completely agree. Thanks for hammering that in, Terry. So anyway, thank you, Pris. Awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. And again, really proud to have you on our show today. So thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, Pris.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
you. Have a good evening or afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.